day, and welcome to the presentation of Litestar for the version 8, the new version of lighting design and data management program, pure automation. So the developments introduced during the past 2 years were totally in the direction of making the lighting design and the data processing the faster way possible. What's new? So the changes that we applied and new implementations that we apply into the program are related to the different modules of the program itself. But we want to focus now only on the main ones related, for example, to photo view, the photometric and spectral data manager, light calc, the lighting, horticultural and UV design module, and on some main features that we introduced at the program in general. So let's start with general functions and let's start with the launcher. So we introduced some new features in order to manage the languages. So it is now possible to switch from one language to the other using this button. It is then possible to access the tutorial sections at our website. So tutorials are long videos, usually around 15, 20, 25 minutes, where we detail the functionalities of a single module. So for example, road lighting, road plus, the automatic data calculation module, and for example, interior model, etc. Then we had introduced the tips. Tips are very short videos describing single specific features. So for example, how to manage the driving currents, how to manage the creation of a report, etc. So they are not describing the whole, for example, photo view module, but they are describing a specific feature. Let's come to the photo view. We introduced at the photo view the new Report Plus module. So this is the capability now that offers the program to print the complete document. Before, through photo view, it was possible only to print the main graphics and tables coming from the photometry and the spectrometry itself. So it was not possible to have the other information related to the measurement. So for example, the laboratory information, laboratory data, the images of the products, the images of the instruments, they are now available through the Report Plus module now. So you can add and you can put together the previous pages related to the visualization of the graphics and tables, and now you can put together with the general information about the laboratory and about the instrument, etc. So the new Report Plus, it is managing the report cover, the luminary data section, the environmental parameter section, the instrument list, the standards, and the eccentricity section. So it's all part of the old document now. So let's say that it is a great step in the sense that before, for example, at our laboratory, any photometric report was managed in between 30 up to 45 minutes. Now, all the information, all the report is managed in a few seconds. Why? Because all the information, and this was also another big change that we had to introduce, are now available through the Excel file. So now we pack all the information, all the images, all what is related to the measurement, we pack it at the Excel file. And this is a huge advantage because it keeps the information in a single location, but on the other hand, it makes the work, the daily work, even easier than before. So, for example, now at the OXL 8.0, it is possible to store 4 images about the product. So the product image, the sketch, the driver, and maybe the first one could be the focus on the lenses used in here at the product. Then we have the 2 reference image. It means that in here we show how the photometric measurement system, so the famous, for example, C gamma system, is related to the product. Sometimes it happens that some customers are asking us, I do not understand how the photometry was measured. Why? Because it is a particular photometry, for example, for a wall lighting luminaire, and the orientation of the photometry is not always clear. This is possible because the information is only packed at the ULUM data or IS file. In this case, it is difficult to see. You don't have any option to see an image and to immediately see how the photometric system, measurement system was linked, was related to the product. In our case, with the Excel file, this is possible. Then it is also possible to pack 2 images about the instruments. The OXL file, in this case, it is a file where you have all the information in place of having all the information saved into different files. What's happening now at many laboratories around the world? They have the information, the photometry saved in LDT or IS file. Then they have the spectrum saved in an Excel file or in another text file. The images are in a folder, and then manually you have to put together all the information. This is time consuming. Why? It is not necessary. If we save it, we store them all together in a single file. It is much easier and it is much quicker to work. Okay, another interesting change, new feature that we introduced is the UE 2019-2015 energy label module, energy label form. This form is produced automatically by the program, and it is summarizing the parameters that brings to the classification and to the verification if the luminaire is passing or not the energy assessment defined by the standard, the eco-design standard. So this can be printed together with a single label. Another interesting change more related to the Italian market is the capability now of the program to print all the labels related to the energy assessment, Italian energy assessment for outdoor public lighting. Before it was possible to print a single label, energy label, per page. But now it is possible to have the 5 available. Why? Because in Italy, the same luminaire can be classified in function of the different areas where it is going to be installed. So for example, the same luminaire can be installed on a road, can be installed on a parking lot, can be installed in a urban area, and can be installed on the pathway of a park. So you may have different energy classifications in function of the destination of the target. Now it is possible to print all the labels at the same page. Another modification, another change we introduce is about the general data section. General data is summarizing the parameters measured at the laboratory. Before, it was not perfectly placed in order. Now we added all the information. We reorganized all the information and we packed them at this document. For example, we included here the two different channels for the electrical parameters that before were not available. Before we only had the power, but we didn't have, for example, any visualization about the driving currents and so on the secondary. So now all the information are perfectly organized and displayed. Let's come now to the light calc. The light calc, our lighting, horticulture, and UV design module, is now managed in a different way from the point of view of the center of rotation. So before, the rotation was always in function of the absolute axis, the main axis. But now it is possible to select a single object and the rotation will be done along the axis, the relative axis of the object. So in this case, we have the three axes, and if we select the object and press on this button over here, so it's F, focus, then all the rotation will be around this luminary or around this, the selected object. Another change is about the shortcut. Some keys changed their way to work as it was before. So if you press Control at the keyboard and left click of the mouse, you have now the tumble. Before, it was the pen. If you press Alt and the left click of the mouse, now it is the pen. Before, it was a tumble. So this change was needed because now the Control plus left click of the mouse can be used also to select the objects. So, for example, if you have a panel at the top of a high mast where you have 40 different luminaires and you want to select some luminaires that you want to replace with another type, now it is possible to do that. Besides the list that you have at your left, it is possible to do that graphically visualizing the panel of the high mast. Another little change, another little implementation, but very efficient, is the modify button that we had at the results section. Before, it was needed to, whenever you were at the results section, it was needed to select the view, 3D view, then you had to select the area or the room under consideration, and from that you could access to the modification area. Now you have the button that straight away brings you to the modification area. And this is at the end letting you save a lot of time. Another feature, interesting feature, and for the outdoor lighting, very useful feature is the background DMP image import. So you can import, besides the import of the EXF file, already available with the previous versions, now it is possible to import also a BMP image file so that you can use as the background and it can be very useful in order to define your area of study, like in this case. And then whenever you finish to define the area, you can add your luminaires, run your calculations, and this will be managed and printed at the project report. New OXF. The OXF file is the file that we introduced, and it is parallel to the OXL about the luminaires. It is the one for the objects, for the furniture, etc. So now you can create an object inside Litestar, and then you can save it to the OXF file. This is very useful because at the same time you create the object, you can also define the colors, you can also define the texture, and whenever you save the OXF file will bring all the characteristics of the object, so that whenever you import it again, it will have the full characteristics previously defined. This is possible. So for example, whenever you import an object, you can define the properties, selecting the object, right click of your mouse, modify, and you come to this window. And from this window, you come to this window where you define the characteristics of the surfaces, you define the texture, etc. And then whenever you close this one and come to this one again, you press Save As, and you save the OXF file. Another big and interesting change was introduced at the Road Plus feature. Road Plus is the feature that calculates automatically tens or hundreds of roads automatically. So you define the roads through an Excel file. The program reads any line of the Excel file, calculates, save the project, and head over here the results. The new features that we introduced are related to the optimization function. The optimization function is solving a big problem now facing most of the users whenever they use Road Plus. Why? Because more and more through the LED luminaires, you have the chance to drive the current. And whenever you drive the currents, you change the flux and you change the power. So not being possible through the LDT files to have the different values of flux, power, and driving current, then it is now the habit from the different manufacturers to create many LDT files corresponding to a single luminaire, but with different driving currents. So it means that in order to characterize a luminaire in the best way possible, you at least need 20, 30, up to 60, 70 different files. With the OXL file, being possible through the OXL file to save the flux and power curves in function of the driving currents, then it is now possible to use a single file in order to find what before was possible only after running many calculations and filtering the solutions. Then at the end you could find the solution more or less suitable for your needs. Now the program is automatically calculation which is the driving current corresponding exactly to the flux that gives you at the end exactly the value corresponding to the class you define at the beginning of when inputting all data about the project, about the road, about the class that you want to classify, through which you want to classify the road. So it's only one line. You don't have any more many lines. We ran a calculation through some LDT files, 61 LDT files that were supplied by a manufacturer about a single luminaire, and the total calculation took roughly around 40 minutes. The same information were packed at the OXL file, and the calculation was ran in 16 seconds. So you can understand what is the advantage in using the optimization feature and in using the OXL 8.00 file. Then at the Road Plus module, we also introduced the downgrading. Downgrading means to satisfy what the standard, the 13201, EN 13201-5, it is the standard of Europe about road lighting, it is saying. So The standard is giving you the option to reduce the flux. For example, whenever you have a different flux, traffic flux rate. So for example, at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the night, you may have 100 a rate of 100 vehicles per hour, but during the night you may have one vehicle per hour. So it is not the case to light the road at the same level. So at 3 o'clock in the night you can reduce the level. It means reducing the level, it means to go down one class or two classes. So with the downgrading feature, it is now possible to define through the Excel file, the input Excel file, it is possible to define how many steps you want to downgrade your system. So you may start at the M3 class, and then you can go down to M4, M5, and the downgrading is defined through the number. You may have 1, 2, or 3 steps. So automatically the program, when it is launched, will create M3, M4, M5, and run the calculation that you will find, and the results will be found at the end. Then we introduce the luminance and illuminance tolerance. What does it mean? It means that in place of calculating exactly at the value defined by the standard, you give a tolerance so that you may take into account that there will be a flux reduction in future. It's clear that this can also be managed through the maintenance factor. And now the maintenance factor can be considered as a range value. So before it was a fixed value, now it is a range value. So you can define in between, for example, 0.8 up to 0.90 with a step of 0.05. So the program will automatically calculate the 0.80, 0.85, 0.90. Then the installation lighting factor, it was the request made by some designers. They asked us to introduce a factor that could, in a different way, manage the same concept of the downgrading. The installation lighting factor, it is a factor that it is applied to the maintenance factor, and it is reducing the flux in function of the value that you introduced. The latest feature that we introduced is the printout selection. What does it mean? It means that before the users, the Road Plus users, may calculate, for example, 1,500 lines of the Excel file. Why? Because they were corresponding to the different LDT files. So many calculations. And at the end, it was necessary to filter and to find the proper solution. So it was not the case to print into PDF file all the projects, but it was needed to select one of the rows and print only the one of interest, or 2 or 3 or 10. So now it is possible to select the projects to print into PDF file through the latest column at the right, where you select with an X, and then you run again Road Plus, you select the output Excel file, and automatically the program will simply open the file and print what you selected. Sport Plus. It was a huge work and a huge implementation at the end in order to introduce the advanced module for sports area lighting. So it is working in this way. First of all, you select the sport. Then in function of the sport, the list of the available standards will appear over here. So for example, if you select football, then the list of the standards will be based on the European standard EN 1293. Then we have the FIFA. Then we have the UEFA. Then we have the for example, the French Federation Football Standard. After that, in function of the standard, you may have to select the class. So the lighting of a stadium, of the field of a stadium, can be done at different levels, 3 levels, class 1, 2, 3. And in this case, if you have selected class 1, it means that you are designing the lighting of a stadium where an international match will be performed. On the other hand, let's say that it is now not possible yet to compare the values defined by the class, defined by the standard, with the final calculation. It has to be done manually by the user, by the designer, but it will be done in future. So we opened at this stage the pathway. Automatically, whenever you have finished to define the 3 selections, then the PA, the playing area dimension, will appear. The PA grid will appear, and also, in case, in function of the sport, the total area around the principal area. So for example, for football, you will have the PA area and the total area with the dimensions and with the grid points. Let's say that some sports are not editable. It means that the values are fixed. For example, for basketball, you don't have the area changing in function of the different stadiums. It's fixed, like volleyball. In football, it is possible to have a minimum value up to a maximum value. And so you can define an area of interest. And let's consider that it depends also on the championship level. So for example, for the top level championship, you have usually the widest area, but whenever you go down to minor championships, then the area may be even smaller compared to the big ones of the top level. So in order to manage properly the project, some other features had to be introduced. So for example, the absolute coordinate system and the local coordinate system. It means that it was necessary to introduce such a change, such a new feature, because whenever you manage the panel of a high mast where you placed all the different floodlights, and if you want to turn and visualize the panel from different points of view, because sometimes if you want to visualize the aiming, it is much better to visualize the panel in front of you from the back side and see at the end in front of you all the field. But sometimes it is more convenient to visualize the panel in front of it in order to select the different floodlights. So the panel can be turned in function of your needs. It is not fixed. So we had to introduce the option to change from the absolute system to the relative system. And it is done, for example, selecting the high mast from the list or from here and clicking on this icon, which is the focus icon. Then we introduced the summary table of the luminaires, which is the one here. Why? Because whenever you have a long list of luminaires at the top of a high mast, then it is most of the times very useful if you have a table with all the parameters, with all the results, which is summarizing all the parameters. So this window can be brought to a second monitor. So you have the 3D and 2D visualization on one monitor and the table visualized at the second monitor. So whenever you change a value at the table, it will be reflected immediately at the 2D, 3D view. And whenever you change graphically something at the 2D, 3D views, then it will be reflected automatically at the table. So this interaction is absolutely very useful. So another concept we introduced is the free group concept. What does it mean? It means that before, with our previous program about sport area lighting, it was possible only to define a panel at the top of a high mast which was fixed per rows and columns. Now, at the beginning, you define a group of luminaires that are organized in rows and columns, but they are free to move. So, for example, it is possible to create a group of luminaires that then you go and place it to the top of the roof of a tribune, for example. And sometimes, like in some cases over here in Italy, the tribunes are not plain. The tribunes are curved. And so with this feature, it is possible to move the luminaires exactly to their position in function of the cover, in function of the roof of the tribune. Then autofocus of the panel being modified. So whenever you select a high mast, the program will automatically focus, create this window and focus the visualization on the panel or the group of luminaires related to this high mast or related to the selected high mast. And open immediately the related table of parameters. This is really a way to save a lot of time, because if you want to do it manually, you have to focus on the panel, then you have to turn, and it is not so easy. In this way, it is very fast. It's clear that managing sport area lighting, it is also necessary to introduce the uniformity parameters. And it was done introducing the MAUR from the main standards, mostly FIFA and UEFA, and the gradient uniformity parameter. It means that you open the table, the visualization of the results of interest, like in this case for the horizontal illuminances, and then you open the view menu and you select the gradient or MAUR. Whenever you click, automatically the program will display the values related to the uniformity system. In this case, these are the values corresponding to the MAUR. This is, let's say that the values are 4 values around a single value, because they are the uniformity parameters related to a single value compared to the others around it. A main new feature is the result configuration feature. This is absolutely very helpful. Why? Because in this case, whenever you have a lighting design, like in this case of a stadium, of a sport area, you may have to analyze different tables, different results. So for example, in this case, it's obvious that you have to analyze the horizontal luminances, but also the vertical illuminances. And whenever you have the horizontal illuminances and the vertical illuminances, etc., you want to visualize in a very simple way if they are corresponding from the point of view of the uniformity to the limits defined by the standard. So you open this one, and then you convert to the MAUR, like in this case. So you may open, during the analysis of the calculation result, you may open 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 different tables or different graphics, because you can also convert the horizontal values into isolux curves or into false color diagram. And so whenever you find that something is not working and you have to go back and change some parameters and change some aimings and change the height, I don't know, anything you need to change then forces you to recalculate from the scratch. And with the previous version, it was not possible to reopen automatically what you selected before. Now it is possible. So whenever you select the different tables, graphics, etc., at the beginning, then you add them to the list, and automatically the program, whenever you run a calculation, will open automatically the results of interest. This is very useful for sport area lighting. This is very useful also for road lighting, but mostly I can tell you for tunnel lighting. Why? Because tunnel lighting is characterized usually by a luminance curve, and the luminance curve is subdividing the tunnel into different zones. Before, it was necessary to select different zones at any calculation. Now, automatically, the program opens the calculations in function of the different zones, letting you save a lot of time. So you open the zones, you open the tables of interest, you create your own graphics, you create your own zooms, you add them to the list, and that's it. The list, the same list will be available for next calculation. And so you are only focused on the project and designing in the best way possible. So the introduction of Litestar 48 is the introduction of a work of 2 years, where we worked underneath the program mostly, and then we applied to what we worked underneath, we applied the new features we introduced up to now. So they are very intense and very great functions that cannot be explained in a short time. So we are going to organize other webinars in order to introduce the different features such as Report Plus and the OXL 8.05, Road Plus and the optimization function, Sport Plus and the management of sports areas. And these are only the main ones. Then we applied a revolution to the way we manage the user licenses. So before 3 licenses were available, the A, B, and G. Now the G was retired and is no longer available. Now we only have the A license and the B license. The A license is limited time of use license, and in this case, unlimited time of use license. It means that in this case, the license will be turned off after the expiration period unless the expiration period was extended before the expiration date. In this case, the program will continue to work even after the expiration date, but the services will be blocked, will be stopped. It means that after the expiration date, without the extension of the license, the program won't be upgraded anymore, up to when a new license B will be open again. As you can see, there is a big change also from the point of view of the prices for the A, limited time of use license, and the B, unlimited time of use license. Let's say that the open version is the freeware version, free of charge. You can download it from our website. The first step is to purchase the professional version, which is at the end the supply of a code from our system that can be input at the open program in order to become professional. And from the professional version, it is then possible to add the list of available Plus module you can have here. In blue, you have the brand new ones, Report Plus and Sport Plus. Also, some minor changes were introduced at the marketing licenses. So these are the licenses of interest for the manufacturers. It's the way to let their data of the products flow to the market. So the market can download the program. So designers from the market can download the program. And at that stage, they start to use the program. And so they can download from the different manufacturers' website. They can download the LDT files and use them. But also, they may access the web catalogs of the manufacturers and download information straight away into the program. So this is possible, for example, with the R license through which a manufacturer can create his own web catalog and let the people select the products and download them into the project. The R license linked to the web catalog means that you, as a manufacturer, are open to use a system that it is not only a simple electronic catalog, but it is mostly a data center. And first of all, a system capable of converting the information starting from an OXL 8.0 file into LDT files, IS file, polar diagrams, Cartesian diagrams, all the color parameters and diagrams, all the photometry parameters and tables like the UGR, etc., straight away. So you don't have to create locally and then upload the different files to the internet. They are automatically converted by the system. So in this case, the R is the web catalog activation for the manufacturer. And the web catalog can be placed freely in the manufacturer's website, like some customers of ours are doing now. And on the other hand, can also be activated at our website. The F and L licenses are the licenses related to what we call the copy licenses. We prepare a program only with the data coming from the manufacturer with the logo of the manufacturer, and the manufacturer is free to distribute the program to the market at an unlimited number of copies. Another big point for the future is that we are no more going out presenting new versions with such a long time. 2 years is a really long time, but it was needed to organize the program in a different way so that we can now launch programs with a closer period than before. So in place of 2 years, we are now focused on launching a program every 5 to 6 months. Thank you for participating to this presentation, and we wish to have you again on the next presentation.